one of the things that we've been working on, and progressively we're going to roll out more pairings amongst our members. We also reported to you about, I guess now 3 years ago, that Star Alliance developed what we call the Star Alliance Baggage Hub, which allows us to track bags along the customer's journey. That allows us to scan, the scan data of the bags are now stored in the Star Alliance Baggage Hub. And the data is now being used by many of our members progressively to be able to push out the data to the customers as to where the location of the bag is, regardless of who you're flying with. So you could be a ASEANA frequent traveler and you use the ASEANA app, but you're on a flight with Air New Zealand between Sydney and Auckland, you'll be able to track where your bag is in terms of their status. So that's, again, our effort in rolling out more digital experiences to give back the control of the experience, or at least to hand the control of the experience into the hands of the customers. One of the things that we have just completed at the end of last year was in the loyalty area, where we have enabled customers to be able to redeem miles across the lines anywhere by whatever device you wish, and in choosing the flights that you wish to have. In the past, as you might know very well, as you are all frequent travelers in this room, in order to redeem your miles, typically you have to call a call center, and then you wait for an agent to pick up the phone, and then you give your date, and then they tell you, unfortunately, there isn't any availability on the day you want. What we've done here is to enable this online. All you need to do is to stay in the channel of choice, whatever that is, Lufthansa.com, United.com. You'll be able to see the inventory of the origin and destination of where you wish to go for the date that you wish to travel, as if you were buying a ticket on any website. So again, the strategy there is to hand the control of the experience back in the hands of the customers, who will then decide where, when, and how they want to do that, whether by your tablet devices, by a smartphone, on the bus, in the middle of the street, to redeem your miles on the flight that you wish to have. Progressively, we're rolling out many more of these digital experiences. We're working on some other things that unfortunately today I'm not quite ready yet to announce to you, but you will see as we build a portfolio of digital products that connect more seamlessly for our customers. And I emphasize the seamless experience here, not so much of just about the airport experience from curb to gate of seamlessness, but also seamlessness in the transactional sense. And again, as I said, from redemption to the selection of your seats, all that is geared towards making that experience for the customers more seamless, transactionally, but also physically at the airport. One of the things that I'm pleased to announce this morning that we have renewed our partnership with IATA in providing our members at least with and more seamlessness for our customers for the automated document checks that we carry out at the airports or whenever a check-in happens. The product that we have of automated document check allows our members, whenever they check in a customer or whenever a customer checks in online, to be able to know in advance whether or not the customer has valid documentation, such as visas, for a particular destination. And if the customer doesn't hold the necessary travel documentation, then the boarding pass will not be issued. And this not only helps our members in making sure that they carry customers who have valid travel documentation, but for the customer himself or herself to know that they need to have the necessary documentation to where they wish to go. So that's a partnership that we have renewed with IATA. But the major announcement that I want to make this morning to you, as probably something that you've been looking forward to for a while, because I've been on record in saying for some time now that we've been working with some of our members in relation to our connecting partnership model. You will know that we launched this model some 2-3 years ago, and back in 2017, 2 years ago, we announced the integration of Junyao Airlines in Shanghai to be the first connecting partner of Star Alliance. Today I'm very pleased to announce that the Chief Executive Board yesterday approved the application of Thai Smile Airways, a 100% subsidiary of Thai Airways, to be the next connecting partner of Star Alliance. Thai Smile will add approximately about a dozen unique destinations to the Star Alliance network. It will add obviously a commercial value to our members as well. You will know from I've been on public record in saying that we've been working with our members in revising the strategy of the connecting partner model. We took some time since the model was rolled out to understand more clearly what is the audience of this model, what is the content of the model, and what is the problem that we're trying to solve. And we've been focused very much in looking at the subsidiary of our members, and Thai Smile therefore is the first of the subsidiary of our members to be integrated as a connecting partner in Star Alliance. And the focus here is really to solve a problem that is an industry development. Many of our members have been launching what I would call the different production platforms, different cost of production platform. And we are conscious that many customers that used to be part of the Star Alliance network are now flying on these other platforms, and which are outside the Star Alliance network. So the connecting partner model is a strategy for us to recapture or to bring back these customers into the Star Alliance network, to be able to offer them the continuing benefits and privileges that they used to have when they were flying in the Star Alliance network. So I'm pleased this morning to announce that Thai Airways we will begin to integrate them as the second connecting partner of Star Alliance. We expect that the integration process to be about 7 months, 6 or 7 months, and by the end of the year, that process should complete. So we look forward to that successful completion of the integration by the end of the year. As I said, this is an ongoing project for us in trying to bring back the customers that were part of the Star Alliance network that are now flying on the other platforms of our members into the fold again. So that's really my report to the press this morning from our meeting of the Chief Executive Board yesterday. So happy to take questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeffrey. So we're open for questions now. We have 2 microphones. So if you have a question, please raise your hand and wait for one of my colleagues to come with the microphone. Okay, here on the right-hand side, please. Please let us know your name and your publication, please.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Iro. I represent Travel and Business News. I have 2 questions. I'll start with the first, which has to do with the issue of the documentation. I need to understand how that relates with the API, the Advanced Passenger Information, which is a requirement. Would that not create an additional level of screening to the passenger's travel experience? How are you going to relate the 2? Because normally, if I get to the airport, all my travel information needs to be scanned and sent. So I need to understand how that model is going to work. Secondly, I'm impressed with the upgrades that have been made in the various lounges which you announced. But I'm concerned about the level of work you're doing in Africa with regards to that upgrade. With regards to the connecting model, in Lagos, for instance, I have 2 major Star Alliance members, and their gates are very far apart. Very far apart, I said very far apart. I wouldn't want to mention names. But if I'm going to connect from one end to the other, it's going to take me an average of 20 to 30 minutes, if not more. Considering the fact that in that airport, you will need to come through immigration, then go back again before you can connect. So these are some of the issues I'd like us to clarify. Thank you.
Thanks for that question. Very comprehensive. I'll try to answer the best I can because you touch on quite a number of topics that are more of regulatory nature, and often it is not something that is easy to change. Much as we would like to solve the world's problem, sometimes we've got to take them more gradually than one intends. Insofar as, if if I take your questions in reverse, in relation to your connecting experience in Africa, the gates being apart, to the extent that we can, obviously we can't solve all the airports problems around the world all the time, in a single day. Where there is an opportunity and a business case that makes sense to co-locate our members as much as possible, that's certainly what we would like to do. But it does depend on the prioritization exercise in terms of volume of connecting customers, in terms of the number of members that are flying to that airport, for instance. But one thing that you can be sure is whenever the opportunity arises, whether it's in relation to a terminal renovation or in relation to a new airport terminal or new airport that is being developed, and if it is a place where we have a significant volume of operations, we will be there right at the beginning in our conversations with the airport. And we make sure that we have that conversation early on. Because as you know, once the architect and the contractor signs up on the plan, it's very difficult to change. And so we want to get into the conversation as early as possible. And you see that around the world where we've been working with the airports, particularly in this region where there are a number of developments, Beijing with a new airport coming up, which means that it allows the Star Alliance carriers that will be remaining at the old airport to renovate the facilities in a way that provides a more seamless experience for the customers. In the same way that we're doing things here at Seoul Incheon Airport too. So progressively, but it does depend on our prioritization as to where we address some of these problems. In relation to lounges, again, I think it's a question of taking the steps by steps here in where we can make a business case in launching these lounges. What is important for us is not only the volume, but also the strategic importance of the location at the hub. Of course, Africa is important to us. It's a very fast-growing continent. We have 3 members there, from Egypt Air to Ethiopian, very fast-growing member of Star Alliance, and also South African Airways. But we'll certainly take note of the opportunity in Africa. Christian is here with me. He's riding furiously away, and he'll get the opportunity for Africa. Thank you very much for that suggestion. Now, in terms of API, it's a regulatory matter, and of course, to the extent that we can in making the experience more seamless and less minimal disruptions, that's what we will be aiming to do. And the automated document check product that we have from the partnership renewal with IATA will allow a somewhat more convenient sort of validation of your travel documentation, but it will be difficult to take away requirements of governments that require one or the other validation. But certainly, I think because technology is moving at such a fast rate, there will be solutions in place to take care of some of these inconveniences that you referred to.
Next question, please.
Hi, good morning. Seth Miller from atn.aero. I also have 2 quick questions, hopefully. With regard to the digital platform and working through, you mentioned Air New Zealand Singapore Airlines able to do seat assignment now, but didn't mention Air New Zealand being able to select on Air Canada. I'm curious, some of the other alliances have announced these sort of situations where when you join in, you have access to everything that's already there. Is that an architectural difference for the Star Alliance version, or something else that the airlines still have to negotiate bilaterally? And then the second question about the Connecting Partner Program is, it's great to hear that you're adding more in and more of these partners that are subsidiaries of your prime carriers. How are you convincing the LCC arms that it's worth the extra costs to do this? Thank you.
Thanks, Sam. Good morning. Good questions. The digital services platform is the architecture that we built about 2 years ago to enable the digital services of our members to be connected and essentially using their APIs to be connected. Simple as it may sound, in integrating digital services to a digital services platform, in the technology world, when in the example that Seth is referring to there, when you are trying to enable advanced seat selection, it requires a member to put its seat map onto the digital services platform, and then for another member to what is known in the technology jargon of consuming the seat map and then presenting it to the customers in the ad or in whatever online channel of that member. Providing the seat map onto the digital services platform is an easier exercise than it is to consume. Both require integration efforts. Putting it on is simpler than it is to consume because there are different technology architectures that are involved. And one of the challenges or one of the difficulties often is we also have to work with the distribution companies, the Amadeus and the Sabre, because they run the passenger service systems of our members, and they also have to be a party involved in that integration effort. And so we've been much quicker and faster to be able to put our members' seat maps. In fact, about more than a dozen of our members are now ready and enabled to have their seat maps on the digital services platform. But it is a slightly more difficult effort to consume or to take the seat map and present it to the customers in the app of the airline. So that's why that takes a little bit more time. It is not as simple as saying, once I have it provided, I'll be able to show it to the customers. It does take a little bit of effort there. In terms of connecting partner and its value, clearly, as we've always said, whether it's for a connecting partner or full members, there has to be value that is being added to the network. In this case of Thai Smile, we are convinced, both in dollar value and also in customer experience, that there is value to have them in this airline's network. I will take the opportunity to say that even though we have shifted our focus and our strategy towards making the customer journey better and customer experience, even though we have the connecting partner model that is running for us, we're not close to business in the sense of having new members. It is that we have to have value proposition from any airline that wants to be part of the Starlines network. We are large, we are global, we are comprehensive, we have 28 members today. Very few parts of the world where we are not covered. And even in those markets where we don't have a member, and as I said many times, we have many members that are flying into that market, whether it's Australia, Russia, Hong Kong. They are served by double-digit members from the Starlines network. So whilst we're not close to business, connecting partner model has been a way for us to at least focus on those gaps and pockets where we're able to integrate particularly subsidiaries of our members.
Maybe here on this side?
Yeah, Robert Silver, Travel Weekly. For the digital service platform, just are you happy with has the progress been as quick as you expected, or has it been slower than you expected?
Well, thanks very much for that question. In this business, we always want things yesterday, I suppose. But I'd say that we've been making steady and stable progress. But there's always the wish to have things move a little bit more quickly. You've heard me say, particularly in the case of advanced seat selection, it is, the knife and the fork in the restaurant as you walk into is a basic expectation of our customers. And certainly we would like to have this fully rolled out as quickly and as soon as possible. We can always be better in having this, the progress in our digital services rolled out. And it's not just in the advanced seat selection, but also in being able to track your bags, for instance, being able to check in more seamlessly across your channel of communication that you have, whichever app that you use.
Questions? I think we have one on the right?
Good morning, Chris Chamberlain from Australian Business Traveller. Jeffrey, last year in Sydney, you said at the board meeting, the Alliance had discussed adding one or more tiers above gold, for example, Star Alliance Diamond, to further the value proposition, the travel experience for your most regular guests. Is that something you're still discussing and considering developing, or have you decided that Star Alliance Gold will remain the top tier?
Thanks very much, Chris. Trust you to raise that question as a follow-up. Thank you very much for that follow-up question. We haven't forgotten about that. Yes, I did. And at that time, I also said that just like any other business, we're always constantly reviewing the products and the propositions that we have. And loyalty, as you will appreciate, is one of the major propositions of the Global Airline Alliance. In the course of the time since we shared that note with you, We've been working with the experts of our members in looking at the possibility of an additional tier to the statuses that we have today. But in the meantime, we've also been looking to see if there were additional benefits that could be added to the tiers that we have today, whether it's gold or silver. And the prioritization at this time is to look to see if we might have additional benefits that we can roll out to the silver customers and the gold customers. Be it benefits that the airlines themselves can offer, or benefits that we can have in partnership with other parties that are related to the travel industry. So I'm going to have to ask you to bear with me a little bit more as we look at this opportunity. Thank you.
More questions?
Morning, Mr. Goh. I'm Chen Frederick from AGM. I probably have asked this question before. How open is your member airlines when it comes to data sharing of your passengers' details, things like allergies, food allergies, things like mass, for example. So how open are your airlines, sharing this data from one partnering airline to even to your partner, connecting partners? At what stage is it now? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. It's a good and a difficult question. First and foremost, I'd say, of course, in the Alliance, many of our members, with the exception of those in a similar holding company or in a joint venture, are still competitors in many ways. And it's a more complicated question to answer in terms of data sharing. There is, of course, a degree to which we do share data, to the extent that it helps a seamless experience of the customers. So one example is, you could have taken your flight yesterday and you became from a silver to a gold member, and you have a flight today before which you may wish to enter the lounge. Now, you will not have received your gold card today for you to be able to enter the lounge. So our members are enabled to share that information amongst each other to then say, dear Mr. John Smith, he is now a gold member, and whenever he tries to access the lounge, he will be entitled to do so. So there's a certain degree to which we do share that kind of data. But we also need to respect that certain space or universe of data where it is still, there is a certain competitive connotation to it. And it is an evolving part of the airline business as some information perhaps become less competitive in nature, but there is still, I guess, a sphere or a universe of information that is still proprietary, if I can put it that way, for the members.
Okay, thank you. We can take one more question. Yes, please.
Hello, it's George from Australian Aviation Magazine. Mr. Goh, I'm just wondering with Thai Smile, how many of your Star Alliance airline members do you think will have a commercial relationship with Thai Smile under the connecting partner model?
Right, to start with, one of the requirements to be fully integrated as a connecting partner is you need to have a commercial relationship with at least 3 members. That means to say you need to have interline agreements, you need to have frequent flyer agreements with at least 3 members. Today, Thai Smile already has, I think, interline agreements with at least half a dozen of our members. So we don't expect that to be a problem. I expect that there will be no less than half a dozen at least to be in the portfolio of Thai Smile.
All right, thank you. So with this, we'd like to conclude our media event today. Thank you very much for taking the time. If there are any unanswered questions, feel free to reach out